Om Namo Narayanaya. Jai Ramakrishna. Since it's time, we can start with the prayer. Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Pranam Maharaj, yes.
Om.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me? Om Namo Narayanaya.
Om Namo Narayana. We can hear you clearly.
Yes, Swami, we can hear you.
We can hear you, Maharaj.
Can I start the class?
Yes, please. Yes, please, Swami.
Om Namo Narayanaya. Can I start the class?
Yes,
Am I
Swami.
audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes. Om Maharaj, we can hear you. Jai Shri Ram Krishna.
Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha. Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to the study of Ramakrishna, the Great Master. Last time in the class, we were discussing about the Shivaratri on which Gadadhar has to play the role of Lord Shiva and how he got absorbed in that. We will read about that again. Then we shall enter into the proper subject. So now all of us will take the form of 8-year-old children, and we all of us will go to participate in the Shivaratri drama, the Jatra, to see Gadadhar, how does he play the role of Lord Shiva. We will all become 8-year-old children and enter into that place. Boy Gadadhar, who was 8 years old at that time, on the day of Shivaratri, he has fasted and worshipped with intense devotion the great god Shiva, the origin of all the gods. His friend Gaya Vishnu and some other boys of his age were also fasting and decided to keep a vigil that night. Witnessing a drama depicting the glory of Shiva. That drama was to be staged in the house of their neighbor Sitanath Pine. After finishing the worship of the first quarter, Gadadhar was sitting merged in the contemplation of Lord Shiva, when his friend suddenly came and told him that he would have to act up of Lord Shiva and speak a few words play at the house of the pines, for they explained the person who usually played that role had suddenly taken ill and was unable to appear. Gadadhar at first declined on the ground that it would interfere with his worship, but they brushed aside the objection, arguing that if he acted the part of Shiva, he would have to think of him all the time. And that was as good as worship. Moreover, they said his refusal would deprive very many people of the entertainment. They also were fasting and had decided to keep a vigil the whole night, witnessing the drama. Won over by such arguments, Gadadhar agreed finally and appeared on the stage in the role of Lord Shiva. With his makeup of matted hair, the Rudraksha beads and ashes, he became so merged in the thought of Shiva that he lost all external consciousness. As he continued to be in that state for a long time, the play had to be stopped for the night. So we had gone through the life of Gadadhar during this period of Shivaratri until now. I had told in the last class that I have to explain a little about this Samadhi, where we can see when Gadadhar, as a boy of 6 or 7-year-old, he saw the sky, beautiful blue sky covered with dark clouds. And in that contrast, he saw a beautiful a formation of cranes, the white colored, snow white cranes flying against that background, making it much more beautiful. Seeing that wonderful expression of the Lord, Parabrahma, cosmic form of the Lord in that beauty, he lost consciousness. People were afraid, that his mother and father were afraid what had happened. Did he get fits or something like that? But Gadadhar insisted, no, he was in a very high state. He was conscious inside. And he was in a very joyful state. The same thing happened. And another incident which we will explain later on, that is when he went to the Vishalakshi, Divine Mother Vishalakshi's temple, they too had a very special vision of the Divine Mother, or the Divine Mother came into his personality. The Divine Mother, Durga or whatever you call, entered his person and he fell unconscious. And this is the third time. And then too he was in great joy, immersed in the thought of Mother. And now we are seeing that he is absorbed in the thought of Shiva, and that focused mind has taken him to a very high state, merged in Lord Shiva, becoming Lord Shiva himself. So the pure mind of Gadadhar could experience all these things because there is no bondage, there is no barrier for him to stop. So he is experiencing this great thing called Samadhi. So revered Shardanandaji Maharaj had brought the word in all these 3 cases about Bhava Samadhi, Samadhi. And here, before reading this word, we can see what Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling. And after this experience, various spiritual visions came to him from time to time. He had this kind of Samadhi and vision on the Shivaratri of that year. So now, I told you that I will bring you some material about Samadhi. All that is scientifically explained. So I have to tell you, logically explained in Raja Yoga, in Patanjali Maharshi's Raja Yoga. So it is our Hindu psychology. It is the science of the superconscious mind. What do the psychologists of the Western countries do? They study the mind, the ordinary mind, the diseased mind. They are more interested in curing the diseases of the mind. But our Hindu psychology, Indian psychology, not only studies about the ordinary mind, the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, the diseased mind, but much of its attempt is studying the superconscious mind. how can we ordinary man can become a superman? So we all see some superman flying there and here, there. It's much more than that. If you can become a real superman, overpowering your conscious mind and controlling your subconscious mind and then going to the superconscious state, then that is something more greater. So today I have bought that all that material, and that is also explained not by any other person. The explanation of this Raja Yoga, or Patanjali Maharshi's Raja Yoga, I have culled from Swami Vivekananda's teaching on Raja Yoga, and I'll present it to you. It's very interesting. Let us go to understand what this samadhi is. Now Swami Vivekananda takes it from explaining about prana. We all think prana means the breath or breathing. But here Vivekananda explained prana is not just breathing. We all think that breathing is pranayama. No, prana means the original force. And what is ether or akasha? The original matter. If you go on now, smaller, making it smaller and smaller, breaking the matter, then as you go on breaking the matter, now present day scientists have come up to the atoms. Earlier it was molecules, then atoms, then subatomic particles. The atoms were divided into nucleus, and inside the nucleus it was divided into protons and neutrons, then the electrons going around the nucleus. So the scientists are going forward to break still that subatomic particles too. Now they have arrived up to quarks. But the sages, the Hindu scientists, the seers, the rishis, they would not go to some laboratory to find it out. They used to concentrate their mind. The mind was their laboratory. So they used to concentrate on the mind, think in the mind, and they would make this mind and their personality as a laboratory and go deeper and deeper. Concentrated mind would be applied on that particular subject, and they used to find out everything. So they had gone deeper, even after these atoms, some subatomic particles, and they have gone to the elements, 5 elements, Akashat, Vayu, Agneya, Agner, Apa, Prithvi, the 5 elements. Then they have gone further, deeper. The original matter, the original Akasha. So the original Akasha, then from that we get the Vayu, then from Vayu we get the Agni, from Agni we get the Apaha, that is water. Then from water we get the Prithvi. So like that, the 5 elements, the original elements. So quintuplication of these 5, it is called Panchikarana. They become the gross 5 elements, and that world we see. That too can be, our scientists have not yet gone even to that gross Panchapranas. Our rishis, munis, the sages, the seers, they have gone deeper and gone to the original prana, the Panchabhutas. So the original matter is Akasha. So then how did this creation happen? Because if everything is from one, suppose let us take atoms. Everything has been made out of atom. What is the difference between this wood, the plastic, the computer, the paper, and other things? What made the cement, the concrete, the window, they are different. How did this happen? It happened due to the same Akasha taken up a different vibration, a different frequency, that becomes changed material. And what is that frequency? What is that? That is called energy, the force. And what is that? If you go on breaking down the force, we see so many different manifestation of the force. If you go on breaking down to the original, that original force is called prana. And in devotional aspect, in our Puranas, because ordinary people cannot understand the original prana, original Akasha, it's too much for them. So they gave the name, the original force, as Kali, Divine Mother Kali. And what is the original matter? Shiva. So this Kali, the force, the Divine Mother Kali, are the force, the original force, which is called prana. Its different aspect we can see here in our body. If you go, you have that 5 different pranas: prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana, 5. And still subtler pranas are there: krikala, kurma, Devadatta, and others, subtler pranas. So that original, if you go still further, you go to the expression in our own body, we get that expression of that original prana. So now pranayama and all this yoga, what we do is to get the control of that prana. So if you get control of that prana which is in your body, through the breathing exercise, you go to the original lung movement, which is caused by the muscular movement, which is caused by the energy force of the nerves, which is coming and getting contact. That nerve is taken to the brain from which this starts. Then that prana, original pranas, that prana's expression is found in the thought force, the ego, the mind. That's the subtlest aspect of prana. We go there and then control it. That is the mind, the thought force, the origin, the expression of prana there. So then we get control of the whole body. That is the basis of pranayama, pranasya ayama, control of the forces, original force, prana. Yeah, through the control of breathing, because the external expression, the grossest expression is breathing. So we go in. Now, let us understand. Now, because if I go on explaining that, it becomes more deeper and deeper. Just to make you know what is ether, that is akasha. Taking up that akasha, the original force, which is called Shiva. Then this divine mother Kali or prana. The devotees can think it's called, anthropomorphic. Suppose a buffalo starts thinking of God. It can think buffalo, God as its concept will be a huge buffalo with the golden horns and giving thousands of liters of milk. So sitting on a golden throne, that will be its concept. So anthropomorphic is a human being can at the most think God as himself, just like a man. But originally God is something higher than that. But for our sake, God will appear in the form, taking the form of Kali, Shiva, Vishnu, and other things. So that's all. Not that it is just imagination of human being. No. For our understanding, to make it easy, God takes that form and ideal. Okay. So the original force is Kali, which is called in our Puranas. Then the original matter is, that is Akasha, is Lord Shiva. So taking up this original matter, the original force at different levels of vibration creates this world, different things. You can see the variation, all this diversity of this world is because of the energy, the prana, the different vibrations, the different frequency. So you can understand how this world is created. Now, Swami Vivekananda here in explaining this Raj Yoga, he comes to the prana. So, and what is this prana? What is this Akasha? Again, Swami Vivekananda tells about that. The original matter, Akasha, is, what is that? It is nothing but the potential prana. When prana is not vibrating, it is not active. The potential form of prana, the condensed form of prana is Akasha. So when it is not active, when it is not functioning, it has taken the form, the same energy, prana has become Akasha. The same Akasha which is in its potential form, when it becomes kinetic, that is prana. So Shiva Shakti Abheda principle which Ramakrishna used to tell, that is the same thing. And that is what found out by the present day scientists, the transformation of energy into matter or matter converting into energy. You can see in the nuclear fusion, fission, and you can see in the sun, the same thing, fusion is happening. So matter in the sun is converted into light and heat energy, and we're getting that. So that is interconvertibility of energy and matter. They are one and the same. So that our rishis had found out in that original Akasha and Prana, which our scientists have not yet gone. They have only are in the atomic level or the nuclear level. But ours great scientists rishis have gone still further to the original Prana. So now you can see what is that great concept, the interconvertibility of matter. What is that shown in what kind of vision? You can see that Mother Kali is standing upon Lord Shiva, keeping her leg on the chest of Shiva, standing on Shiva. Oh, we get, what is that? wife is standing on the feet of the Shiva, and we get a story. She was killing all the demons, and she was coming with great force. And then she was to be stopped. She completely destroyed the demons. Now she was destroying even the good beings. Devatas were also afraid. They started praying. Nobody could control Kali. They started praying to Lord Shiva. It was only Shiva who could do that. So Shiva, what did he do? He slept on the path of Kali. When she came forcibly, even the ground couldn't withstand the steps of Kali in her fierce form. Then what happened? When she stepped on the chest of Shiva, she saw only Shiva could withstand that. She saw its own husband, then she lolled her tongue like this. That's all that story for us to understand. It has also happened. What is the inner meaning in that? Why is she standing on that chest of Lord Shiva? That is the expression of interconvertibility of matter into energy. What is that original matter? Shiva. So when that Shiva is static, it doesn't do anything. No Srishti, Sthiti, Pralaya, no creation, nothing. So when that expresses into the kinetic form, that is Kali, so then all this Srishti, Sthiti, Pralaya, the whole creation happens. So Mother Kali standing on the chest of Lord Shiva, on Shiva, is indicating that we are not separate, we are one and the same. When I am static, I am not doing anything, I am Shiva, the original matter. When Shiva becomes active, kinetic, and start creating all those things, then the same Shiva is called Kali. You can give by any other name, Vishnu and other things. This is a concept our yogis have found in their thing. So there's Shiva standing, no, Mother Kali standing on Shiva is not that, oh, she's stepping on the husband or other thing. Vedya, Agni and its energy, the fire and its burning power, they are not separate, they are one and the same. Can you separate it? The milk and its whiteness. Ramakrishna gives this example. So Shakti is the power of God. That is Shiva. You can take that as Shiva or Vishnu, whatever you like. But here, let us take one example, Shiva. So on which Kali is standing there means she is the expression of original matter, Akasha, converted into prana, that is energy, creating, doing all this Srishti, Sthiti, Pralaya. That is original prana and that is original Akasha. I gave you the brief explanation because this is all given in detailed explanation in the introduction to Raj Yoga by Swami Vivekananda himself. If you want, you can go to that original source and read. Now I shall come to to explain what is Samadhi. Now we have come to know what is prana, what is Akasha. Now Swami Vivekananda is telling the prana is the vital force in every being. Thought is the finest and highest action of prana. Thought again, as we see, is not all. It is still much more subtler than that original prana, is much more subtler than even thought, which has become thought. There is also what we call instinct or unconscious thought, the lowest plane of action. Okay, Swami Vivekananda gives the example. If a mosquito stings us, our hand will strike it automatically, instinctively. This is one expression of thought. So the conscious expression of thought is different, then reflexive or impulsive expression of thought is different. The mosquito stings us, our hands will strike it automatically, instinctively. This is one expression of the thought. All reflex action of the body belong to this plane of thought. So we came to know thought is at different level, instinctive, that is reflex, and conscious. So you can now differentiate between these two. So this is also expression of that original prana. There is again the other plane of thought. What is that? The conscious, what we are doing now. I reason, now we are talking, we are thinking, I judge, I think, I see the pros and cons of certain things, yet that is not all. Still something different is there. We saw two expressions of that prana, the thought force. What is that? The impulsive, the instinctive, the reflex action, the thought in that reflex form. Then the conscious one, as Swami Vivekananda gave us beautiful example, different examples. Okay, what is the other expression? What is again the other plane? We can see the expression of prana. There is again the other plane of thought. What is that? Thought expressing or prana expressing as thought and thought expressing as another thing is conscious. The conscious. I reason, I judge, I think, I see the pros and cons of certain things, yet that is not all. There is another expression. What is that? We know that reason is limited. The conscious thing we do is limited. The reasoning is limited. The logic is limited. Reason can go only to a certain extent. Beyond that, it cannot reach. The circle within which it runs is very, very limited indeed. Yet at the same time, we find facts rush into this circle. Where is it rushing from? What another area it is rushing? So what is that? How can thoughts come into this circle? Like the coming of comets, certain things come into this circle. It is certain they come from outside this limit called reasoning or conscious thought. Although our reason cannot go penetrate beyond that, the causes of the phenomena intruding themselves in this small limit are outside of this limit. The mind can exist on a still higher plane. Now we can know that mind or thought can express at the subconscious level, that is the impulsive, that is the reflex action, and then consciously we are doing so many things, so it can go beyond that. So the causes of the phenomena intruding themselves in this small limit, in this logic or in this conscious level outside, so it comes from outside of this limit. The mind can exist in on a still higher plane, that's called superconscious. Now you came to know a little of what is superconscious state. Okay, so from there all these things are coming. So when the mind has attained to that state, when our mind goes beyond this conscious state and go to that higher plane from where everything is coming, that is a superconscious state. When the mind has attained to that state, which is called samadhi. Yeah, we came to our subject, what this, now Gadadhar, this boy had that samadhi. Our concept of samadhi is different because in each language, samadhi has a different connotation, especially in India. When somebody dies, we think that everybody, their own, see, when their kith and kin or their father and mother or some grandfather have died, who will think that he has gone to hell? They will think that he has gone to heaven. They will always imagine that he has gone to Vaikuntha or Kailasa, or he has taken up samadhi. That is the highest state of consciousness, even though he has led a very bad life and gone to hell, or he has gone to some other ghostly life. But we all want to know that our own relatives, they have gone to very high state. So he has attained samadhi vita. And they put the graveyard or the cremation and other things on that. They will make a memorial. What is that called? They will call it samadhi. So they got a wrong connotation now, wrongly used, and we get a wrong meaning. What is samadhi? So immediately when the word samadhi comes, we get some other thought associated. So now we have come to know very, very subtle and higher aspect of that thing. That's called samadhi. I've explained through Swamiji's statement. So this entering to that superconscious state, which is beyond the conscious level, very limited. Conscious level is limited, and the unconscious level reflexive is also limited. The mind and the thought force can enter into another from which all the source, the energy comes. That is the superconscious state. That study of that superconscious state is our psychology. That is Raja Yoga. So Swami Vivekananda has come to tell you. What is that? Again, I will repeat that. When the mind is attained to that state, that is a superconscious state, that is called samadhi. And what is the other words given by Swami Vivekananda about this samadhi? Perfect concentration, superconsciousness. It goes beyond the limits of reason. It's going beyond the limits of reason. Then there is no cause and effect relationship here. Here the whole world is called cause and effect relationship. We ask, why did that happen? What was the cause of that? Then what was the effect of this? What will happen next? So we are always, this whole world is limited in this time, space, and causation. This superconscious state goes beyond that. So your thought, you can go beyond that. So with purity of the mind, with sadhana, you can go to the superconscious state. That is a perfect concentration. Another word for that is perfect concentration. So superconsciousness. It goes beyond the limits of reason and comes face to face. What does it comes face to face with? Facts, which no instinct, which no reason can ever know. All manipulations of subtle forces of the body, the different manifestations of prana, if trained through the control of this breathing, then go to the subtler, the muscle movement of the prana in the lungs, and through that go inside to the nerve currents. From the nerve currents, go to the brain. From the brain, go to the mind, then thought level, then to the original prana. Then if you control that through the pranayama and other meditation and the puja and so many other things you do, you are now controlling the prana. You're getting the hold of your mind. So you get hold of the control of prana. So if this prana, the original force, if trained, what will it help? What will it do? Gives a push to the mind. What is that push? Just like now the rocket, you want to launch into the outer orbit. Here, the limitation is the gravitation is pulling down. So you have to give such a push thrust to the rocket that it should be escape velocity. I don't remember now. It may be 9.8 meters per second square or something, 7.8 miles. So I've forgotten it. What is that? 9 into 10 to the power of 8 or something kilometers per second square. So I forgot that term. I will get it. What is escape velocity next time? If that much of thrust force is given to that rocket, it escapes the gravity of the earth and goes to the outer orbit. Then there will be no gravity for it, pull of the gravity. So likewise, here, if you train your prana, if you train your thought through this pranayama, through the yoga asanas, through the japa, meditation, concentration of the mind, then what happens? The prana, if trained, gives a push to the mind. Just like the thirst, the rocket is pushed out to go to escape the gravity, like that, if prana trained, it gives a push to the mind, help us go to the higher region, that is a superconscious state, and become superconscious from where it acts. So that is going to that state is called samadhi, perfect concentration. Okay, beautiful. We got the beautiful way of what is samadhi. Scientifically, we have got it, come to know what is samadhi. Now, Swami Vivekananda is explaining it in a different perspective. So there are so many other things. I have bought the material. Then we will go out of our subject. I will take up that in between. Whenever another time the word samadhi comes, I will take up. Otherwise, wonderful thing. You have got so many ideas of what is samadhi. Scientifically, you came to know. But now we'll come back to our subject again, because I have not yet completed it. So much of material I have got. But now let us go again into Gadadhar's life. So what is that? That purity. He started worshipping. He took that Yagnopavita Dharanam. Then that sacred thread investiture. Then he started praying to gods and goddesses. Now that mind is now being pushed slowly from the subconscious level, the reflexive level, to the conscious level, control the prana. Then that is giving a push to the higher thing. Now, when he saw that beautiful scenery there, he got that higher state. He went, his mind was pushed to that. Then now he's doing puja, making it more purer and purer. So he's getting different experiences, different spiritual visions came to him from time to time. Now this Gadadhar at this young age, he had this kind of samadhi and vision on the Shivaratri of that year. So when he merged the original prana Shiva is much more greater than that. The first expression of Nirakara Nirguna Parabrahma is Akasha. Our Upanishads tells. So you can call him Shiva by that name. There's no problem. The original matter from which everything has come. So but he's Shiva, Paramashiva is having still higher aspect of that. For us now, as of now, this much is enough. The original Akasha and Prana, Divine Mother Kali. So the boy had this experience. From now onwards, after this Shiva, he became merged with, in the thought of Shiva, made him to go deeper into that superconscious state. So just thought of Shiva, merged, he got merged in Shiva. From now onwards, Gadadhar was in this kind of ecstasy. What is that ecstasy? In that superconscious state, mind is pushed to that beyond reason. You come to face with God. That is the superconscious state. So now, from now onwards, Gadadhar was in that kind of ecstasy. When you go to that state, when you are pushed to that thing, prana is pushing you to that level, that is ecstasy. There you will feel only joy. It is knowledge condensed. It is even beyond knowledge. What we have knowledge is something lower. Here, their superconscious state is much more than that. That's why minimum words, what is used is Satchit Ananda. For that being or that higher state or that great God, what is it called? You can express it by only minimum words. The more you try to explain through your words, it becomes Juta, Uchishta. You get it limited because it is infinite. You want to make it limited by expressing it through words. So the minimum words, that's why Swamiji at some planes tells, you can tell God is. After that, if you go to tell, you will get limited. At the most, you can express, that's all. God is. You can't tell anything more. But our Vedas and Upanishad have told, explained him as with minimum 3 words, Satchit Ananda. What is that? We always repeat in the name, God's name, Satchitan, Sachidananda, Sachidananda, Satchitananda. What is Sat? What is He? Infinite existence. Now you exist, I exist, the table exists, this computer exists. So the sum total of all existence and existence beyond that, much more than that, is infinite existence, absolute. That is God. Infinite existence, absolute. Then what is the next aspect? We want to understand, so we are telling by that. Otherwise, it's very difficult to explain about this. Chit, infinite consciousness, absolute. Infinite knowledge, absolute. That is Chit. Then what is that? Another aspect, Ananda. Infinite joy, infinite bliss, absolute. So that is God. That is superconscious state. Minimum word, Satchit Ananda. Can't do any further come down to tell it, then you limit it. You're making it juta, you're limiting it. It becomes limit, it becomes finite and finite. So he's infinite. So let us see. So Gadadhar, at this age, he got this already, at 7 itself, he got that state. Can you imagine? And now he's further getting through that Shivaratri, on the day of Shivaratri, and while he's doing puja, and he went to Vishalakshi, he's getting that superconscious state. From now on, you could see that Gadadhar was telling, no, mother, it is not something, a disease or something. I was in a very high state. My mind was in a very conscious state inside. I was feeling joy, infinite joy. Now you can see infinite joy, absolute, face to face with God. So from now onwards, Gadadhar was in a kind of ecstasy from time to time. He would forget himself and his surroundings when meditating or listening to songs, any small trigger. So now for us, what happens? Any small trigger will take us to bad things, to the subconscious mind. It will take us to the subconscious mind. Any small trigger, hear a bad word, hear a something other indecent word, immediately mind will go to subconscious mind, the bad things. But Gadadhar's mind was so pure, so perfect, that any small thing will trigger the mind to go to samadhi or to the subconscious state. So he would forget himself and his surroundings when meditating or listening to the songs of gods and goddesses, music, etc., even just music. What is the expression of beautiful music or any music? It is Nada Brahma, God, infinite God in the form of sound. It's called Nada. Nada means sound. Brahma means God. God, formless, attributeless God, expressing himself through sound is Nada Brahma. Music is that joyful aspect of that. Why do you feel so happy? Why so many diseases are cured? They're using different ragas. In the Indian Hindu musicology, they're using different ragas to cure different emotions, to cure different diseases. It so happened one of the dictators in the Second World War, other than Hitler, Mussolini. So he had so much of tension, so much of depression, he couldn't sleep. So he has lost sleep. So one great singer who had gone there from India, so when he was told the problem and asked to bring him out of that sleeplessness, then he sang particular raga with beautiful way he sang. And after that, he could get sleep. So like that, nowadays, they're doing a lot of research by different ragas, by way of different expressing music. You can cure so many diseases. You know that we have heard that Tansen, he could light lamp. The lamp need not be lit. The lamp which is put off or just the wick is there with the oil. By singing, by music, that raga is called Deepak Raga. He could light the lamp. And there was another raga called Megamallara. So if you sing that with great devotion and perfection, then it will bring rain. And it has happened, it has been seen, it has been proved. It comes in the life of Tansen and many other great devotees. So music, what is that? Nada Brahma. Parabrahma, God in the form of music or sound. Om is the first expression, and after that, we get Vedas, and from Vedas came the Drupad Anga. You know the Sama Veda, and Sama Veda, it's music. From Sama Veda, it was Drupad Anga, the original state of music. And then we see whatever we are having, the Khyal, the Tungri, the Tappa, and other things. So the original expression. So it is joy, absolute. So Gadadhar would forget himself and his surroundings when meditating. The beauty would bring the concept of cosmic God. Anything, some small suggestion would trigger his mind to take to that conscious, subconscious, superconscious level, listening to songs, music, etc., in praise of gods and goddesses. Then his mind would remain indrawn for a time, short or long, during which it would not respond to any external stimulus. Now you can understand, without this background of the yoga and samadhi, I think we could have not understood what this was. With the help of Swami Vivekananda's that material from the Raj Yoga, we came to understand. Now we can appreciate what is that. What is that? Samadhi means we think some mental malady. No, it's a superconscious state. It is the mental malady when you go to the subconscious state. It is superconscious. You become a superman. You come face to face with God, the higher state. So now you can appreciate samadhi, isn't it? Then his mind would remain indrawn for a time, short or long, during which it would not respond to any external stimulus. On occasions, when his absorption became very deep, he would appear like a lifeless statue. That is what happened when in Shivaratri, when he put that role of Shiva, he got merged in that Shiva's attribute, because just the thought of Shiva made him Shiva, took him to the subconscious state, face to face with God. He himself merged in Shiva. Okay. On emerging from such states, he would say, if questioned, this boy of 8, he got that at the age of 7 itself. Now, on Shivaratri, again at the age of 8, he's getting that higher experience, the superconscious experience. So on emerging from that state, after coming down, he would say, if questioned, that he then experienced a marvelous joy. Told you the minimum words which we can express God is Sat Chit Ananda. Same thing. Infinite existence is infinite consciousness, knowledge. Infinite knowledge is infinite joy. Just one small expression. Now you're trying to solve a mathematical problem. You have a problem. So you solved it by yourself. Then you got that knowledge. What happened? Oh, you felt so much of joy, isn't it? Small knowledge is giving that much of joy. Then imagine the original knowledge, the highest knowledge, which is consciousness. How much joy would it be? Infinite joy, what it would be. So now Sat Chit Ananda. God is infinite joy, infinite bliss, absolute. So people who take up that aspect of God, the joy, bliss aspect of God, Swami Vivekananda calls them devotees. Bhaktas, devotion, the path of devotion, that is Bhakti Yoga. Those people who take the Chit aspect, the knowledge aspect, are called Gnana Yogis. That is, the path is called Gnana Yoga. That's all. So simple. What is Gnana Yoga? What is Bhakti Yoga? Take this aspect of the Lord, of knowledge. You are a Gnana Yogi. You like that consciousness or knowledge. If you take the aspect of joy, then you are a devotee. You like joy, express that joy. But you get all the three. They are the same. They are not separate. But you want to concentrate on that. Some are interested in something. Let them have it. Let them enjoy it. Nobody can be forced to anything. Let them take anything. Let them become a devotee. Let them become a gnani. Let them become a Rajayogi. Let them become a Karma Yogi. Everything finally comes to the same thing, as Krishna tells, whichever path you start. Ye yathamam prapatyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham. They have to reach me only. They will come to me. That is the superconscious state, the Lord. Here, the Krishna, Vishnu, Shiva, Parabrahma, the same thing. You come face to face. You become yourself. So now, visions while meditating on some god and goddesses or listening to songs glorifying them. On emerging from that state, he would say, if questioned, that he then experienced a marvelous joy, accompanied by divine visions while meditating on some gods or goddesses or listening to songs glorifying them. So now, by the advent of Ramakrishna, by the life of Ramakrishna, we can understand religion better. Otherwise, our scriptures and our religion would have been just practices, rituals, and we would have not known what is this until unless Swami Vivekananda and Ramakrishna is expressing through their life. Now we get faith in our religion. Our Hinduism is true. All the aspects which have come is true. That's why Ramakrishna has taken this birth, the avatara, to show us all these visions, all the gods and goddesses are true. What is told in the scriptures are true. And now you can see why Ramakrishna didn't get into get the education. Why he simply, without getting education of the Vedas, he didn't study Vedas, he didn't study Sanskrit, he didn't get the higher this thing. Why did he jump into it? So that if he had studied all these things, then had the visions, then he would have told, because he was thinking of that according to psychology, because he was thinking almost of that, he got that aspect. So it is not true. But he never had anything about it. He's directly gone into spiritual life. He's getting all these experiences. Now you can verify. Yeah, what the rishis and munis have given, that is called scriptures. All the mantras, all the visions given by the munis and rishis and our saints, that collection is called scriptures. What is scriptures? It is simple. What is Bhagavad Gita? Given by Lord Krishna, his experiences. What is Vedas? Given by the rishis. The superconscious truth. So they are the collection of all those things. That is scriptures. Now Ramakrishna's life here in the present age, without reading anything, just going directly to the spiritual experience, is getting that experience. The same thing. So it is verifying, you can verify that. The same thing is happening. So you can accept our Hinduism, all the scriptures are true. Get more faith now. Now we can practice, we too can do that. We can also practice that. So now the life advent of Ramakrishna, the great avatara, is helping us now for us to move forward in spiritual life. What is morality? What is ethics? What is religious life? What is this good life? Why should we lead it? Why can't we be worldly and enjoying this world? No. There it is, material is very small. In the material world, what you get the joy. Here you have infinite joy. Come and enjoy the infinite bliss. Why do you are just satisfied with smaller tidbits? So Ramakrishna is verifying them and giving you. You get more faith. Let us see what is going to happen further. All this caused much alarm to Chandra Devi. How can simple Mother Chandra Devi understand all these things? Yoga, superconscious state. But for us, even we would have not understood. We would have been thinking that Ramakrishna might be having some mental malady, some fits or something. Until unless Swami Vivekananda explained it through Samadhi and Yoga, Raj Yoga verifying that, how could we also understand? So we are understanding that. But Chandramani, how can she understand that? She doesn't know anything about Raj Yoga. Swami Vivekananda was not there to explain about it. So Chandramani is thinking, just like all us ordinary people, she's a simple lady. So all this caused much alarm to Chandra Devi and other members of the family for a long time. But their anxieties were laid at rest when they found that the boy's health was not affected in any way. If it was a disease, if it was some hallucination, if it was some psychological problems, psychiatric problems, then it would have caused you disease. It would have made you weak. You see some of the people who are having this hallucination and some visions, they tell, you can't see their face. It will be contorted. It will be twisted. You just see with somebody, possessed by a ghost or some evil spirit. You can see their face is contorted, ugly, twisted. The hands, everything, you'll get diseased, you get tired. But here, full of joy. That is the opposite of it. As soon as he came back from that state, they found that the boy's health was not at all affected in any way. Rather, it was increasing his health. He was very cheerful. He was very happy, joyful, active, and efficient. Gadadhar was now so often in this condition that he gradually got accustomed to it. It became natural to him. For us, worldly things and other things are natural to us. For Gadadhar now, the superconscious state has become so common and natural. Now you can see what is an avatara. Now you can understand, yes, Ramakrishna is none other than Vishnu or Shiva. Such a pure thing. We can't have one small vision, superconscious vision. If we see a ghost, we die having a heart attack. We are not prepared for that. Our mind is so impure. But see Gadadhar, become natural. Again and again he's getting. But he's enjoying that. Gadadhar was now so often in this condition that he gradually got accustomed to it and could almost control it as he wished. Could control it as he wished. That is Yoga, the origin, the result of Raja Yoga is Swami Vivekananda explains that control of prana, control of thought, every muscle, every organ in your body can be controlled if you take the control of this prana. By pranayama, by yoga, by meditation, you can control every physical energy of your body. Every muscle can be controlled. Now it is unconsciously done. At the subconscious level, the heart is beating, it is not under your control. The lungs are breathing, it is not under your control. Inside the organs, so many other things are secreting hormones, enzymes. So it's not under your control. The blood is flowing, it's not under your control. The cells are functioning inside everything. Millions and billions and billions and trillions of cells are functioning. Not under your control. It's the control of your subconscious state. So now, if you go to the subconscious state, if you purify your mind, you can control every cell of yours. You can stop your heartbeat. You can stop your breathing, still be living. Everything can be controlled. See now, Gadadhar was now so often in this condition that he gradually got accustomed to it and could almost control it as he wished. It helped him also to understand subtle matters. It also helped him, now you could understand how the great Pandits, the scholars, they had read, they had memorized so much of scripture, so much of books, so much of philosophy. They couldn't solve the riddle, but this small boy, Gadadhar, in that gave such a solution that they were surprised. They were happy, they blessed him. You're going to become a great soul, because that which couldn't be solved by the great Pandits, because they are at the subconscious level and the conscious level, that's all. They are limited by reason. They couldn't go beyond reason. But Gadadhar is getting all these things answered from the subconscious state. So he could solve the riddle, he could solve the problem and give wonderful solution. So it helped Gadadhar of this age 8 to understand subtle matters and various truths about gods and goddesses. This made him very happy, and he was never afraid of experiencing that state. We come to know that certain people, some devotees tell, if they had some visions, if they had some experience, they get afraid. Then afterwards, they don't want any, why they have not got the preparation. Prepare, and you can also enjoy that. We can't even face one small, we are praying to God, oh, give me a darshan. Oh, Lord, give me experiences, spiritual visions. I can't be without you. Yeah, you can tell all those things, but are you prepared? Have you done the yoga? Have you done the practices? Made your mind pure? Made ready for the experience? Otherwise, it will shatter your body and mind. You will become mad. That's why God don't give you darshan and visions. You have to prepare for that. Just see, don't till the ground. Don't make it soft, put water and manure and compost. Just throw some seed. Will it sprout? It will die. It's just like that. The preparation has to be made. So here Gadadhar, it has come to his control. Now he can have the visions of gods and goddesses. He's welcoming it. It helped him also to understand the subtle matters and various truth about gods and goddesses. This made him very happy, and he was never afraid of experiencing that state. He was never afraid of experiencing that state. His spiritual tendencies became especially strong, and he began to join heartily in various religious functions of the village, whether in honor of Hari or Shiva or Manasa, that is Divine Mother, Manasa Devi. She is the goddess of snakes. North India, it is worshipped as goddess of snakes. She is called Manasa Devi. Then Shitala Devi, I told that she is the goddess of protecting from the bacteria and viruses and other diseases. She is called Shitala Devi. So, whether in honor, the function in the villages of Hari, Vishnu or Shiva or Manasa or Dharma. Dharma is expression of the old worship. Earlier, everywhere in India, it was Buddhism. So the remnant of Buddhism, so it is called Dharma. Buddha is called as Dharma. So whether it is of Dharma. Now, Gadadhar, his broad-mindedness, at this small age, he has become so broad-minded because he has gone beyond reasoning. He has gone to the superconscious state. How can his mind be limited? When he has seen the unlimited and the infinite, his mind is also, his thought is also is infinite, unlimited. So he has become broad-minded. How can he become broad-minded? By thinking of that which is broad. That is Paramatman, God. So his broad-mindedness not only made him entirely free from any ill feeling against devotees of different gods and goddesses. Why do people fight? Oh, I am the devotee of Shiva. You are the devotee of Vishnu. You are the devotee of Hanuman. I am the devotee of the Nirakara, Nirguna Parabrahma. I don't worship gods with goddesses with forms, and you fight with them. And those people who are the devotees of Krishna, they tell Shiva is demigod and they will fight with them. Why? Because you are not seeing God. You are not experienced God, reality of God. You are not understood. You are not gone beyond these limitations of reason. So you fight. You do not know. Your mind is limited. You become fanatics. You become violent because your mind is at a very lower state. So why did Gadadhar at this age of 8 become so broad-minded? Because he has seen the limited. He has seen face to face with God. What did Ramakrishna tell when Narendra came and asked him the question? He had asked so many people, Sir, have you seen God? Mahashai, have you seen God? What was the reply of Ramakrishna? All told so many things, bogus things. But here Ramakrishna is telling, yes, I have seen God. Face to face, I have experienced God. Much more than that, the way I see you. We see us in this conscious state. So much more better than that, I have seen God. If you want, I can also show it to you. If you want. That's very important. Ramakrishna is seeing God face to face. So this made him very happy. And his mind became broad. His broad-mindedness not only made him entirely free from ill feeling against devotees of different gods and goddesses, but kept him in positive friendship with them all. So he could enjoy every aspect of gods and goddesses, every path. So he can be friendly with everybody. Every devotee can be friendly. So, but kept him in positive friendship with them all. The established tradition of the village no doubt helped him in this matter. For in contrast to other villages, people of all denominations in Kamarpukur, whether worshippers of Vishnu or devotees of Shiva or votaries of Dharma, Buddha, Buddhism, bore no ill will towards one another, but lived in peace and amity. Now you can know why Ramakrishna was born in Kamarpukur. There is already to some extent the harmony of all different paths leading to God. The Buddhism, Hinduism, the Vaishnavism, the Shaktism, the devotees of Shakti, Divine Mother, the devotees of Shiva. There is amity, there is already peace. So Ramakrishna, why is he born? Now you may ask, why Ramakrishna was born? Why this avatar was born in Kamarpukur in Bengal? That too particularly that village. Now you can understand a little bit why. The superior family, father, such a great man of character, mother, simple lady, then Kamarpukur, all gods and goddesses living together. So harmony of religions, because he had to preach the harmony of religion to the whole world. Now you can understand why Kamarpukur was chosen. Why not other villages in South India or in Western India or in other parts of Northern India, Northwest? Why was only Northeast selected? Why was Kamarpukur selected? Now you can understand, you get an inkling. Yeah. That's why we are all in Kamarpukur now. As 8-year-old children, we are with Gadadhar, experiencing all these things. So his broad-mindedness not only made him entirely free from ill will or ill feeling against devotees of different gods and goddesses, but kept him in positive friendship with them all. The established tradition of the village no doubt helped him in this matter. For in contrast to other villages, people of all denominations in Kamarpukur were the worshippers of Vishnu or devotees of Shiva, or votaries of Dharma, or Divine Mother, bore no ill will towards one another, but lived in peace and amity. Now, let us go forward. What is happening in the life of Gadadhar? Although, as we have seen, there was considerable progress so far as Gadadhar's religious aptitudes were concerned, he never developed a liking for book learning. He never developed a liking for book learning. Now, I agreed earlier, why he didn't go for book learning? Because then people would have thought, oh, he was too much thinking of those things, so he had that experience, so there is nothing special. But now, he didn't go for the book learning. He directly went to find out the origin of religion. And he's getting all the experience which from thousands and thousands, from 50,000 years of experience of all our seeds and munis, what is told in scriptures, is getting to the original and getting it himself and experiencing it. It's just like now you go to the school and college that we teach so many things, the molecules, the atoms, in the mathematics, so many things. If you start telling, no, I want to go to the original and find out the whole thing from why 2 + 2 is 4, or what is the cause that the atom is in this shape or the molecule is like that, what is the bonding. I want to go just like the scientist of the origin and find out electricity, find out chemistry, everything. It's impossible for you in this life. But Ramakrishna can do that because of his interest, intense concentration, his memory, photographic memory, and pure mind. So now whatever the religious sages and seers, our rishis and munis have experienced, the great avatars have experienced over the period of 50,000 years, all that experience, all that paths now, Ramakrishna with that pure, now you can understand, can we do that ordinary people? Now you can know the difference between ordinary Jiva and Avatara. Now you can know why Ramakrishna is called as Avatara. Why? You can see the subconscious. He might not be having a sword and killing demons, but he is killing the demon of ignorance. You're losing ignorance, the demon of ignorance, much more higher than killing a physical demon. Anybody can do that if you get more energy. But this great Avatara is killing the demon of ignorance, giving us knowledge. You see, could anybody do that? Knowing all that from the 50,000 or even earlier, from the origin of the humanity, whatever that spiritual path, whatever spiritual practices, he could enjoy, he could understand, he could experience and tell that all are true. They are leading to one single God, the same God. So now you can really find out what is the strength of Gadadhar, how is Avatara, is Shiva himself, is Vishnu himself, is Divine Mother himself. How you can know that the highest Godhead coming here, the Yuga Avatara, come here as this small boy? You can see that. He never developed a liking for book learning, although we have seen there was considerable progress so far as Gadadhar's religious aptitudes were concerned. He doesn't need a guru. He doesn't need scriptures. He can get it by himself because he is the condensed form of all those experiences and knowledge. He is the condensed form of Vedas, of the scriptures. He himself is the Lord whom the scriptures are speaking about. So now there was no necessity for book learning. Now you know why didn't he get the traditional way, what we are getting, the book learning of degrees and master degrees. Ramakrishna, it was not necessary. There is one Sanskrit saying, I'm just going to tell you that. By that you can understand this aspect of Ramakrishna a little better. And what is that? Yadi Shraddha Syatam Vidyaya Kim Prayojanam. Yadi Shraddha Na Syatam Vidyaya Kim Prayojanam. If you already got Shraddha, then what is the use of education? If you don't get Shraddha, deep faith, trust, faith has a very different connotation, different meaning. It's not belief. I've explained that to you earlier. If you don't get Shraddha, faith, by education, then what is the use of education? That means education, our true education, what we are getting now through master degrees and degrees, it's not just a piece of paper. It should give you Shraddha. Is it giving Shraddha? No. So great Bhagavata statement is Vidya Dadati Vinay, Vidya, from Vidya, you should get liberation, freedom, God realization. Ya Vidya Sa Vimuktaye. That's the statement of Bhagavata. Ya Vidya or Sa Vidya, which gives you Vimuktaye, it should give you liberation. So that is real education which gives you freedom, perfect freedom. Perfect freedom is Shraddha. You get it through Shraddha. So here, what are we getting? Where are we going? Are we getting Shraddha? Are we getting liberation, freedom? We think that we are educated, we are only literates. And Ramakrishna didn't need that at all because he has got Shraddha, has already got all the highest thing. What is the need of education? What is the need of book learning? The need of book learning is you should get Shraddha. You should get that inclination for freedom. You should go beyond or behind the truth to learn the truth. The study of truth is education. But we just use it for earning money, breadwinning. So it has become breadwinning education to get power, more power. That's all we are using this education for. So that education was not needed by Ramakrishna. So no need of book learning. Although, as we have seen there was considerable progress so far as Gadadhar's religious aptitudes were concerned. He never developed a liking for book learning. When he saw the longing of learned scholars, he was watching, he was observing, keenly observing all the nature and character of different traits of different people. So when he saw the longing of learned scholars for wealth and worldly enjoyments, he became averse to acquiring knowledge like them. Suppose, let us see, there is one great devotee of God and he gets very angry. He hurts others. He leads a very bad life without character. He is immoral, but is a devotee of God. Will other people get inspired by him? They will start talking. Oh, he is the devotee of such and such a person, devotee of such God. He belongs to that denomination and is behaving like that immorally. He gets wild, he gets angry, he ill-treats his family. He drinks, he boozes, he smokes, he does all the vices, and he calls himself a devotee of that particular deity. And those other people, instead of getting inspired and going to become the devotee of that particular God, they will start hating. So if you take to the recourse to that particular God, then you may become like that person of immoral life. We don't want to go, we don't want to get inspired by that. They will not go to him. They will not go to become the devotee. So when you become the devotee of certain God, you have to inculcate those character and bring it into your life, and you should live such a good life. Your character should become so nice that you should be loved and liked by one and all. You should become a source of happiness. You should be the savior of humanity. You should be helping other people come to their help at every given time. Instead of being harsh, you should be sympathetic, and service attitude should come to you. But what is happening after so much of education? What is the modern education giving? Yeah, let us see. So Gadadhar is watching, his keen eyes, keen observation is watching when he saw the longing of learned scholars for wealth and worldly enjoyments. He became averse to acquiring knowledge like them. If I acquire this book learning, then I will also become like one of them. I don't want to become like that. For his keen insight made him first ascertain the motives underlying all actions and then judge their value by the standard of his father's good qualities, like detachment from the world. He started comparing with the nature of his father. And he is comparing with the other great scholars and pandits who are just bent upon earning money and these worldly enjoyments. They can take up to any wrong means, telling a lie, leading a immoral life, getting money from the bad source. Then he's comparing his own father. Yeah, he might not be very highly educated, a great scholar, but for the sake of truth, he gave up his own land, property, wealth, and he was ready to take up suffering. Is that not detachment, the true character? He's comparing. What is my father? What are these great pundits, the scholars? They have got so much of education, master degrees, PhDs. What is their life? What is their morality? What kind of a life are they living? Is it expressing? Is that knowledge expressing in their life? That's very, very important. That's why Swami Vivekananda tells the summum bonum of all religion, the essence of all religion or any religious practice is very little. Be good and do good. Be good and do good. Before becoming a spiritual man, first learn to be a gentleman. Before becoming a spiritual man, first learn to be a gentleman. We have not become gentlemen and we want to become spiritual men. So after becoming a spiritual man, the gentlemanliness should be expressed in you. So that's very, very important. The keen intellect of Gadadhar is watching all those things. He's comparing. Now you know why he's born as the son of Kshudiram Chattopadhyaya. Because he's seeing character in front of his eyes. Why is he born as the son of the Mother Chandra Devi? The simplicity. She's not having master degree. She's not having PhDs. She's not having postdoctorate. But what is the nature? What is the behavior of Mother Chandra Devi? The simplicity. So watching keen eyes of Gadadhar is watching for his keen insight, made him first ascertain the motives underlying all actions and then judge their value by the standard of his father's good qualities like detachment, vairagya from the world, devotion to God, truthfulness, righteous conducts, etc. That is faith. Education should give all these good character. And you see all the scams, all the bad things done by the present day people are by the highly educated people. What is the use of your education then? Such a comparison revealed to his surprise that the goal of most of these scholars, those who are highly educated, the goal of most of these scholars was entirely different from that of his father. But he felt more sad than surprised to find that such people always suffered from delusion, because they looked upon this transitory world as permanent. Is it then to be wondered at that as a result of this discovery, there arose in his mind a desire to conduct his own life differently. After hearing all this, the reader may perhaps ask, is it possible for a boy of 11 or 12 to have such a profound insight and discrimination? The answer is that Gadadhar was not an ordinary boy. He was born with extraordinary genius, memory, and spiritual tendencies. Therefore, the possession of such powers was not surprising in his case, though he was so young. But this apart, we must, for the sake of truth, narrate all facts that our investigation has brought to light, irrespective of what others may think of them. Going forward, let us see, growing Gadadhar, Sharadanandaji Maharaj is analyzing and giving us what is real mind of Gadadhar, what is his thought, what is his strength. Although Gadadhar's dislike for the prevailing type of education gradually increased, he nevertheless continued going to the school. He became proficient in reading books written in his mother tongue and in writing in that language. He now read the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and other religious books himself, and with such devotion and in such a sweet voice that people were charmed to listen. Now you can see the master degree of Ramakrishna here. He could read the Ramayana and Mahabharata. He could explain. He's a master in lecturing, telling stories. Master in telling stories. So I have narrated so many master degrees of Ramakrishna from this thing. He became expert in sculpting. He became expert in painting. He became expert in singing, music. So master degrees I'm just giving you at this small age. Now he has become expert in now read the Ramayana and Mahabharata and other religious books with such devotion and in such a sweet voice that people were charmed to listen. The simple-hearted, unlettered villagers showed great eagerness to hear him read those books, and Gadadhar was always happy to please them. Sitanath Pine Madhujugi, and others invited him to their houses, and men and women full of devotion heard him read the life of Prahalada, the story of Dhruva, or other narratives from the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and similar other texts. All the men and women in the village used to go to their houses and read these scriptures and explain that in his beautiful voice, and that would make them so happy. They were with great devotion. The people are so lucky to get to hear from the Avatara himself about gods and goddesses. So they used to get pure joy, unsullied joy out of it. So besides the Ramayana, besides the Mahabharata, etc., there still exist in Kamarpukur records containing the stories of gods and goddesses, written in simple verses by the village poets, well known in those parts as the bauls. There is a special this thing in Bengal called bauls, the ballads. They sing, they go from house to house, picking arms and singing, taking the name of the Lord, describing the various Leela sports of the Lord. They're called bauls. Baul Sangeet also, it has become very popular in Bengal, the ballads. So the Baul Sangeet. So narratives on the revelations of the great god Tarakeshwar, the musical composition relating to Yogadhya, and the songs of Madan Mohan of Vanavishnupur, describing gods and goddesses, revealing their true nature to holy men and devotees and performing supernatural deeds. These reached Gadadhar's ears from time to time. With the help of his extraordinary memory, the boy learned by heart many of these poetical compositions by merely listening to their recital, and would sometimes himself copy any available manuscript or printed book containing them. We came to know of this when we found on investigation at the Kamarpukur house a manuscript of Ramakrishnayana, the musical composition on Yogadhya and Subahu, copied by Gadadhar himself. Is this not education? Is he not learning? Going deeper investigation, he is doing deeper research. He has learned to read and write. Now he's copying, getting all those things, learning, and also copying in his own handwriting. It was found Ramakrishna's handwritten compositions of all these things. He used to copy it down. Is it not research? Is this not education? Is it not literacy? So it is also beyond doubt that many a time the boy read or recited these narratives to the simple-hearted men and women of the village. They were uneducated. Ramakrishna would educate them with these things. He used to sing, he used to act, he used to mimic. With all this, he used to give real entertainment and give all this truth to them. All the villagers are learning because of that. Whenever they requested him to do so, or he himself used to go and act them, sing with his beautiful voice and do all the needful. So we are seeing how Ramakrishna is getting real education. He has got literacy, and now he's got real education about the higher aspect of divinity and everything. He's helping the people too. See, the manuscripts are there. He's in his own handwriting. It was found in his house. Sharadanandaji has done a lot of research on it and is telling. We came to know of this when we found on investigation at the Kamarpukur house of Ramakrishna a manuscript of Ramakrishnayana, the musical composition on Yogadhya and Subahu, copied by Gadadhar himself at this young age. All that manuscript are preserved. It was there. And who knows how many have been lost. So real education, Gadadhar is getting real education. I think we have only 10 minutes left. Instead of going in for the question and answer session, I had left somewhere in between about Samadhi, superconscious state. Because if I go on explaining, then we will be out of this subject. Gadadhar, we will forget Gadadhar. Now we are saturated. We got a lot of things about Gadadhar we studied. Now we can just have some pickles. So when you are having food, special delicious food, to increase the taste, you take little pickles or some curries. So curry, pickle is not the whole food. Likewise, now we got the food, whole sumptuous food of Gadadhar's education, Gadadhar's childhood and everything. Shivaratri, the way he merged in Lord Shiva and everything. Now we shall come back because we have 10 minutes in that little small time. We will know another aspect of Samadhi so that it will help us in future. We will get interest in this Raj Yoga. So little about, and that is also told by Swami Vivekananda himself. He has culled it from Raj Yoga and given it here to the Western audience. So that will be more interesting. Let us see about the Samadhi again a little. Okay, before we end our time, we'll try to finish it fast. Concentrate, focus. Focus and concentration is Samadhi. Very high this that will come here. Let us go and see. Swami Vivekananda is telling about the Samadhi and Raj Yoga. He starts with, when I eat food. When I eat food, Swami Vivekananda is telling, I do it consciously. When I assimilate it, I do it unconsciously. I eat the food, it is done consciously. Now he was telling what is this conscious and unconscious, subconscious mind. He was giving the difference. You can understand it better. Then what is Samadhi? Superconscious. When I eat food, I do it consciously. When I assimilate it, I do it unconsciously. When the food is manufactured into blood, it is done unconsciously. When out of the blood, all the different parts of my body are strengthened, it is done unconsciously. And yet, it is I who am doing all this. There cannot be 20 people in this one body doing all these things. How do I know that I do it and nobody else? It may be urged that my business is only in eating and assimilating the food, and that strengthening the body by the food is done for me by somebody else. That cannot be, because it can be demonstrated that almost every action of which we are now unconscious can be brought up to the plane of consciousness. You can make it be done in your own conscious level. You can control it. The heart is beating apparently without our control. None of us here can control the heart. It goes on its own way. But by practice, men can bring even the heart under control until it will just beat at will, slowly or quickly or almost stop. Nearly every part of the body can be brought under control. What does this show? That the function which are beneath consciousness are also performed by us. Only we are doing it unconsciously. We have then two planes. You can just get the example of cycling or swimming. In the beginning, you have to do it consciously. You'll fall down, learn. After you become expert in driving the cycle, then the balancing act is done unconsciously. We need not be conscious now. So many work, you can see how it goes to the unconscious level. Swimming also. After learning the swimming, even if you after many, many years, if you are put into the water, automatically you'll be swimming because it has gone to your unconscious level. So like that, all the conscious activities, it was earlier conscious, now it has gone to the subconscious level, so it has gone there. So all works is always accompanied with the feeling of egoism. Now, first the conscious plane, Swami Vivekananda is telling how it has gone to the subconscious level. First, in the conscious plane, in which all work is always accompanied with the feeling of egoism. Now he's taking us to Samadhi. How nicely he's taking us to Samadhi, you see. So every action is accompanied by egoism. I'm doing this work for me. The heart is beating for me. I'm eating food for myself, the ego. So first, the conscious plane in which all work is always accompanied with the feeling of egoism. Next, the unconscious plane where all work is unaccompanied by the feeling of egoism. That part of the mind, work which is unaccompanied with the feeling of egoism, is unconscious work. And that part which is accompanied with the feeling of egoism is conscious work. In the lower animals, this unconscious work is called instinct. In all the animals, in the lower animals, why in human beings too, some human beings you can see, it is just we are living like animals. In lower animals, this unconscious work is called instinct. In higher animals, and in the highest of all animals, man. Why is man highest? What is called conscious work prevails. You have the power to think. you can do it consciously. But it does not end here. There is still a higher plane upon which the mind can work. It can go beyond consciousness. Just as unconscious work is beneath consciousness, just as unconscious work is beneath consciousness, so there is another work which is above consciousness, and which also is not accompanied with the feeling of egoism. See how nicely Swami Vivekananda is connected. There, the subconscious mind, it is not associated with ego. Now, at the superconscious state, you can go, your mind can also work at another level, go beyond this conscious level, that is superconscious state. And there is still higher plane upon which the mind can work, it can go beyond consciousness. Just as unconscious work is beneath consciousness, so there is another work which is above consciousness and which also is not accompanied with the feeling of egoism. The feeling of egoism is only on the middle plane. The feeling of egoism is only on the middle plane. When the mind is above or below the line, there is no feeling of I. And yet the mind works. When the mind goes beyond this line of self-consciousness, it is called samadhi. When the mind goes beyond this line of self-consciousness, it is called samadhi or superconsciousness. Now, in a different perspective, we came to know what is samadhi. So nicely Swami Vivekananda brought it in. Raja Yoga has given only some shlokas, verses, sutras, and the explanation is done, but not in detail. What wonderful way the great Rishi, the Saptarshi, or the avatar of Lord Shiva, our Swami Vivekananda is giving, telling about this superconscious state, subconscious mind, conscious mind. There in the beginning, we got a different perspective of samadhi, now from a different association with egoism. At both the planes, at the subconscious level and beneath the conscious level, egoism is not associated, so it is out of ego. So when the mind is above or below that line, there is no feeling of I, and yet the mind works. When the mind goes beyond this line of self-consciousness, it is called samadhi. When it rises above consciousness, it's called samadhi or superconsciousness. How? For instance, do we know that a man in samadhi is not gone below consciousness? Has not degenerated instead of going higher? In both cases, the works are unaccompanied with egoism. Both are similar. Then you may think that he has gone to samadhi, but in reality, you might have gone to that beneath that conscious level, the subconscious thing. How can you know that? How can you tell that? So we will see that in the next class. We will explain about the samadhi, because we have to learn this. This is very, very important. Now only if we have this idea, then we can understand. Ramakrishna will be again and again going to different kinds of samadhis. So with this knowledge, background of Raj Yoga, then we can understand samadhi little better. But now we have understood samadhi in a different perspective. Then Swami Vivekananda himself posed the question, and we'll find the answer in the next class. We'll try to do that in the next class. Now we will end our session. I think now it is time. Another 3-4 minutes are there for us. Because now that thing is connected to a speaker, I couldn't hear the sound. Now if I go to the question and answer session, if you ask any question, I can't hear it. So I was just seeing whether I can hear the sound. So you can hear me. I don't know whether I can hear you. I'm trying to do that. I'm increasing the volume. I can't hear anything from your side. Any questions or any doubts? You can ask any question on the subject we have discussed today, or if you have any doubt, please tell. So if there is no question or any doubt, then we can end the session by the mantra.
Swamiji,
Yeah, please tell. May I know who is speaking?
it's Reggie.
Oh, Reggie, please tell Reggie.
Wonderful discourse on Anna, something I never knew. It is
Yeah.
a huge expansion on the subject of Anna. Is it possible for us to get this recording? It's so much information that it's for PhD people.
Yeah, you can get it. They're recording it. It is with our Sridhar Jagwant and also our Naresh, who is the host, who is running the show now. Naresh Ramavatar also can give you that. It is already recorded. And we are also trying to upload it on the YouTube. But before that, if you want, you can ask Naresh Ramavatar or Sridhar. They can help you.
Thank you.
Namaste, Jai Ramakrishna.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Reggie, for telling us this. Even I wanted to tell about the recordings because we want to hear this more often and get others also benefited with your sessions, Maharaj.
Yes, Mother. May I know who is speaking, Mother?
This is Bandana from Muscat, Maharaj.
Oh, okay, Mother. Yes, Mother. Yes, Mother.
Wonderful. We want to have the recordings, Maharaj.
Yes, Mother. You can ask host Naresh Ramavatar. It is all recorded. It is there. It is. They have not yet uploaded.
I don't have any contact. Whom do I contact, please?
The host Mother now who is handling this is Naresh Ramavatar. Is the chairman of our ashrama here. So he
Okay.
can give it to you, Mother. He can load it. Or Sridhar Jagwant, who is handling all that recording, he can also upload it to YouTube. Anybody can get it on the YouTube, our
He's
channel.
already uploaded, Maharaj? He has already uploaded? I mean, the previous ones?
I think he has not yet, not yet, Mother. He's
Okay,
taking
Maharaj.
it is recording. Everything is there with him.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, Mother. Om Namo Narayana. Another 1 or 2 minutes is there. Anybody wants to ask any question or any doubt?
Maharaj, Madhu here.
Yes, Madhu, please tell. Madhu from London, is it?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes, please tell, Madhu.
Yeah, Maharaj, you told about the incarnations and you told about the purpose why incarnations are come on this earth is to tell every path leads to the same God. In spite of all this, why there were so many wars, even I think there were 2 world wars, we know for sure. And also even now, people are, I think, killing each other just in the name of religion. So
Yeah.
has these incarnations not filled the purpose for which they have been born? Have they not achieved the goal they wanted to achieve?
No, they have achieved. Yesterday I explained about this. This world is like a dog's curly tail. So it is for us to come to that. See, there are people at different levels of evolution. They're at the animal level, they're at the higher level, human level, then superconscious level. So all are living here. Everybody has the freedom. So there is free will and God's will. So there is also freedom for you to learn. Just I will give you an example. There is the sunlight. Using the sunlight, one person can write a good poem or something good things and help the humanity. Another person can take the same light and write a letter of forgery. He can forge something and do wrong things too. Is it the mistake of the sunlight? It's not the mistake of the sunlight. Sunlight in itself is good. It is wanting to help you. But if you take that sunlight and use it for the wrong purpose, it is your state of mind. So you are doing the mistake. So freedom has been given to you. This whole world has been created by the Lord and freedom has been given to you. If you fight in the name of the religion, is it the mistake of the Lord or the Avatara? When we do that, he comes down to help us, shows the real path. Then freedom is given. See, the first and foremost condition of religion is liberty, freedom. Everybody has the freedom. So how you use it, you get the result. So it's not the mistake of the fire. It is not the mistake of the God. It is not the mistake of the sunlight that you are making use of it in a wrong way.
Okay, Maharaj. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Madhu. Om Namo Narayana. Any other questions or any other thing? Okay. I will close the session with the mantra. Om Priyatam Pundarikakshah Vaygneshwaro Hari Tasmin Tushte Jagat Tushtam Prenite Prenitam Jagat Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. So tomorrow morning we'll be continuing the same discussion tomorrow morning. That is Friday. Then Saturday evening we have Bhagavad Gita discussion. And then Sunday we have morning session. Sunday and Monday we have the same Great Master in the morning. Then Monday evening we have the Puja class, the science of worship. Then Tuesday we have the evening Chudamani discussion. Tuesday again Bhagavad Gita. So until then, again tomorrow we will again meet and discuss. Thank you. Om Namo Narayana.
Namaste, Swami. Namaste.
Pardon, who is speaking? Can I know who is speaking?
It's Munesh.
Oh, Munesh, namaste, namaste. Jai Ram Krishna. Om Namo Narayana.
Ramakrishna.